All right, let's clap it up. Right, shalom. Yahweh Shemi Shabbat Thumb, all the Akim, Yahweh Shema, al Thumb, Shemi Hawashab, Shemi Hawashab, to all the Akwathian out there. This is the Hachaanakah memorial. Of course, we know this is not a Sabbath. This is we're just holding this as a regular class, but we still want to go into of why we observe this day, why we observe this time. So we're going to go through today. We're really going to mostly go through first Maccabees, and we might even jump over to second Maccabees, just get some audience participation to help out today. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to welcome DC in the house. All right. Just as many DC as Baltimore in here. All right. And Virginia. Oh, my fault. I'm sorry. I'm Virginia in the house. I'm sorry. Let me not leave Virginia out. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd like to start off with a question. Can somebody tell me what Hachaanakah means? Let's start there. Does anybody know? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Con, question.
We stand on business.
Okay, I like that. We stand on business. And you know what? It's we're gonna get into actually the root where I learned something from Officer Hachaanakah. He's always teaching me. All right. Yeah, it does talk about us standing on business. This is what this event is talking about. Does anybody know what the word literally means? Hachaanakah. Well, we know the ha is an article, so it's the something. Okay, Hachaanakah. All right. Besides, what you know? Okay, the time about working right now. All right. All right. Well, let me go into it. Hachaanakah means the dedication. Okay, that's what Hachaanakah means. It means the dedication, and it actually comes from the word kanak in Hebrew, which means discipline. So actually, the word dedication and discipline have a relationship. There's a relation between them, and we're going to talk about why it's important to talk about this memorial of the dedication, because it's going to be our discipline it's our discipline that gets our identity back. And we're going to talk about how we lost our identity. Hachaanakah brings that around, how we lost it and how we regained it. So we observe Hachaanakah because it's going to teach us as how we reclaimed our culture as a nation, how Israel reclaimed their culture when it came back to the Most High, came back and kind of like renewed their covenant towards him. So this observance shows all of that. But let me ask a question. How do we usually lose our culture? Or how do we usually lose our identity? Because this memorial talks about how we regained our identity back. But can somebody tell me what's the usual way? If you think about the Bible, it's always in cycles. It's a cyclical. It's stuff just keeps happening in cycles. So can anybody tell me what's the way that Israel throughout the scriptures, and how we even today, how we lose our identity, or how have we lost our identity? Anybody want to take a shot at it? Or what's the way? Go ahead, Bakwashi. Yeah.
I would say following after other gods.
There we go. Give him a hand. That's perfect. That's the answer. We follow after other gods. We're going after other nations. We take on the identity of other nations and other cultures. And a lot of times when we've gone into captivity, or when we go into captivity, we've asked for it because it's like we always want to be like the other nations. That's pretty much what's happened throughout history. We'll get a righteous leadership in. A righteous leader will come along, prophets and apostles. They'll direct Israel back on track. They'll get Israel back to the covenant to obey. And then we get wicked leadership. The wicked leadership comes right in, and then they turn and they cause Israel to err, and they cause Israel to go after other gods, and they cause Israel to go after other cultures, other nations. So you'll see this pattern throughout the Bible, as that Israel would get back on track, then they would get off track. Get back on track, get off track. But we're going to talk about how we got off track in the time of the Maccabees, because that's what we're going to go into today, and how we regained and got back on track. And the way we get back on track is through righteous leadership. The leadership, it does matter. It does matter. But first, let's circle around to what Prakwashka said. Can anybody on their phone pull up? Let's just look at a couple of scriptures of what the Most High told us not to do before we get into the Maccabees. Let's look at Exodus 23. Let's look at Exodus chapter 23 and then verse 23 through 24. Let's just get some background on it before we go into the story, because we just want to see what the Most High was telling us not to do. And of course, we'll see what Israel would end up doing. All right. Anybody, the first person to pulls it, can go ahead and read it. Come.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 23.
Go ahead.
For mine angel shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites.
Okay, so real some context. This is talking, the Most High is talking to Moses here. He's saying, I'm going to send my angel before thee. This is when the children are talking about they're going to send before them in the land. And the land was pretty much inhabited by the Canaanites, descendants of Ham. They were all through there. And this is what the Most High said. Go ahead.
And the Hittites.
Go ahead.
And the Perizzites. And the Canaanites. The Hivites and the Jebusites. And I will cut them off.
Okay, you're saying that you're supposed to completely cut them off. That means that you're not supposed to, make a covenant with them. You're not supposed to sit with them. And the reason why, can somebody tell why would the Most High say to cut them off? Why? There's a you can give me a couple answers, but why would he say cut them off? Go ahead, question.
Because we'll be tempted by whatever they do.
Yeah, we're gonna be tempted. We're gonna want to celebrate Christmas. We're gonna want to eat crab, shrimp, lobster, ham. We're gonna want to eat the stuff that they eat. We're gonna want to worship the gods they worship, and we're not gonna be separate. We'll amalgamate with them. Amalgamate, mix in with them. Okay, keep going.
Verse 24. Thou shalt not bow down to their God.
It's like a lot of times what we will tend to do is we a lot of times want to serve other gods, other leadership. Well, I'm a Republican. Well, I'm a Democrat. I think Captain Nazari, I said I don't want to misquote him, but I remember Captain Nazari, I believe, said one time, like, us as blacks and we're everything else, but we can be everything else but Israelite. We're 5%ers, and we're Egyptologists, and we're chemists, and we're Muslim, and then we're Baptists, and just going after other gods. And we want to go after other leaders. I want to be a Republican. I vote for Trump. I vote for Biden. But the main thing is we need to be with our God, as Commander Junior Honda says, the nigga God. Right. And that's the one we don't a lot of times go after. Go ahead.
Nor serve them, nor do after their work.
Going after their customs, so at their works, their feast days. Go ahead.
But thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images.
Okay, the Christmas trees and all that, you're supposed to break down their images. And that's when you come into the UPK, when you are, getting rid of the worldly, that you're supposed to break down the images of Christianity. Because like I tell people, I still have to sometimes detox. I grew up Christian. And sometimes I still think Christian first. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because, it's just ingrained in you. Okay. Especially the tambourines and all that singing and him and I. It's just, so you gotta break down and shatter those false images. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 25. And ye shall serve the Lord your God.
Okay, that was the main point, is you're supposed to serve the Most High. Okay, We're supposed to serve the Most High. And you can find this all through Exodus, the Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. There's a precept to this is Deuteronomy 7. Make no covenants with them. However, like we're going to see today, Israel, when they got into the land, Israel went after those same gods. Let's just pull it real quick. Let's go to Judges 3. And then we're going to go in and get into the story. But let's go to Judges 3. All right. We'll look at Judges 3. And let's get verse 5. Whoever gets it first can pull it. Shalom, sister. Okay. Judges 3 and verse 5. Go ahead.
Judges chapter 3, verse 5.
Go ahead.
And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites.
Okay, so they're dwelling amongst the Canaanites in the land. And let's see if they did what the Most High said. Go ahead.
Hittites and Amorites.
Uh-huh.
And Perizzites.
Uh-huh.
And Hivites and Jebusites.
Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their God.
Okay, that's what happens. Okay, they intermarry, and then they take after other gods. Okay, you married her. Okay, Christmas, Easter, and all those holidays coming with it. It's and in some of these cultures, it's very deep. Like Catholicism is deep in certain cultures. It's like it's one and the same. Okay, so that's all coming with it. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Most High, and forgot the Most High their God, and served Balaam and the grove. Okay, so it's like Israel would always ask for it. We would always ask for it by going after other guys. Now, here's the question. I know Bakwash is going to know. I know he's going to know. Can somebody tell me what would be the consequence of us serving other gods and going after what would be the result after that? We went and served other gods because we wanted another God. What would be the consequence? It's always happened throughout Scripture. Go ahead, sister. There we go. The same people that we would amalgamate and mix with would just take us right into captivity. Okay? I mean, just take us, how we would want to please we would want to please these other nations. And guess what? While we're trying to please and be like them, they just take us right into captivity. Okay? Just take us right. And that's the next verse. Go ahead. Verse 8. Therefore, the anger of the Most High was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served Rishathaim 8 years. Okay, that's what would happen. They would get sold into captivity, and they would, because they would go after another god. Okay, so you're going after another god. You want to be a Republican. You want to be a Democrat. You want to be a Muslim. Okay, now you're gonna serve it, and you're gonna be at the lowest end of the totem pole. And blacks, Hispanics, and natives got to understand when we serve other guys, we're always put at the lowest end of the totem pole. I believe. I remember I was talking to somebody. They're like, I believe in Bible. I was talking to a black one time. They're like, I believe in Bible, and I'm like, once after everybody does all the voting, they already know what they're gonna vote for. Blacks are never on the agenda. They just want you to help whatever their agenda is, but they're never gonna put you up on the high as a priority, and it's always at the totem pole. So it's nothing new. I've heard even blacks say, "Well, Trump was the best thing that ever happened to blacks." Really? Yeah, I'm like, really? I was like, I didn't see it. So I've heard blacks say that Trump was the best thing that ever happened to blacks. I never saw it, but come, sir. Go ahead.
But this verse is so heavy because what I'm seeing is, the Most High as a father.
Come.
When he's telling us not to do something, he punishes you.
Come.
And it brings me back to like when I'm hearing other brothers, talk about how when they did something and their father, punished them, or that one time that they did and their father just went, back crazy.
Come.
And then they never did that one that thing again.
Come.
And how the way the Most High just put us in captivity for 8 years.
Come.
And back then it was a small captivity.
Come.
And then right here is a big captivity where we're going to remember this.
Come.
And we're never going to do that thing that we've done before. We didn't like that. My father did. I did this. My father did that. And from that point on, I never did that again.
Come.
This is that captivity.
Come. So go ahead, Warrior.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And when you think about that, you can't go to another nation and try to join their culture and be equal.
Come.
I was watching a debate. My thing is watching debates, right? I was watching a debate with his brother, who's supposed to be Muslim. He was debating an Arab on something, right? And they go back and forth. And the Arab was sharing the screen to share the Quran. So when the Arab got upset with him, he kept trying to prove the Arab wrong. The Arab only put Arabic up there. And the brother was like, why you only put in Arabic? And the Arab was like, so if you know so much, read Arabic. And it struck like, damn. Like, he has to teach you. You can't teach him.
Come.
Like telling you, I want to put in Arabic because you don't read Arabic.
So like what you're bringing out is so profound, because I'm gonna tell you, I everybody knows that I was a teacher. I taught for 15 years, and it would kill me when we'd have those teacher days where they would bring somebody in to talk to the teachers, and I was always controversial at teacher meetings when they would talk about equity, and I was like, equity don't exist. I'm like, what are you talking about equity? I'm like, whoever's in charge determines what equity is. Right. It's like, I was like, equity. They would always try to say equity, equity for minorities. Well, what is equity? What are you talking about? It's like, there's no equality. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whoever's in charge will determine where everybody's at, and then they'll call that equity. So I think that's very heavy what you're saying, And so we see the pattern here. I just wanted to bring out a couple scriptures in Judges. Israel would get delivered, and they go back, get delivered, and then go back, going after other gods. So that's the intro to what we want to talk about today. The dedication, Feast of Dedication, Hachaanakah, is teaching us about how we got or regained our culture. We're going to first start out on what caused us to go into captivity, which we discussed, and we're going to see it in this story. All right. So let's go ahead now. We're going to start at Shalom. Shalom. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go into this story now about the Maccabees. All right. And we're going to talk about, we're going to go through we're going to see if we can get through all the story. It's a pretty big story. And Slaki, if I could get, get a couple readers, because I don't want just one brother to be reading. And whenever you want to just switch off, just ask another brother to be so kind, because I know you've been reading a lot. So let's start off in 1 Maccabees 1. We're going to start off in 1 Maccabees 1, and we're going to read verse 1. 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 1. We're going to start there.
The first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1.
Go ahead.
And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Cheshire, had smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
Okay, so we know that's talking about Alexander the Greek. He comes in, he's reigning. Okay, and then we're going to see what happens. We're going to actually see what the children of Israel do. Because remember what I said, they wanted to, they want to be like, we're going to see how they wanted to be like the Greeks. Go ahead, verse 2.
Verse 2, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Okay, verse 3.
Verse 3, and went through to the end of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
Okay, we're going to skip down. So this is pretty much talking about Alexander the Greek. He took over different parts of that area in the Middle Eastern area, Africa, went down. I think he went as far as India, I believe. He was taking over all of that part. Then, of course, he fell sick. He died. And then he had his generals that came up after him. We pretty much know the story. All right. So let's jump to verse 10. Let's go to verse 10. Baba Kusha.
Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus, the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Okay, Antiochus was really, he was a wicked person because he pretty much profaned. We're going to see what he did. He profaned the temple. He desecrated the temple, the altar. He did a lot of wicked things. Okay, go ahead. Now we're going to slack. We're going to look at this. Now, this is what I want us to really pay attention to. Okay, remember, pay attention to the leadership of Israel. Okay, or the people that are starting to stir up Israel. Let's pay attention to what they do. Let's look at verse 11. Go ahead.
Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Wicked men. So, and wicked men are men that do not observe the law. Okay, they despise the statutes of the Most High. They don't like the customs and the cultures, the laws and the commandments of the Most High. They want to be like other people. They want to be like other nations. That's the wicked men. And there's a lot, and all the time, pretty much all the wicked leadership. Go ahead.
Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
Let us go. Come, so go ahead. Con, good point. Con. Come. Come. Christian pastor. Excellent. That's an excellent point. The one that everybody looks up to, the popular, the idols. That's an excellent point. Right. Excellent point. That's an excellent point. Okay. Go ahead.
Saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
Let's go and make a covenant with the heathen. That's the spirit. Let's go. I want to be like the heathen, like also Warren said. I want to be like these Christian pastors. I aspire to be like the Christian pastors. I want to be like the drug dealers. I want to be like the hip hop artists. All right. I want to be like them. Let's make a covenant with them. Let's be like them. Go ahead.
The heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Okay, let's be like these politicians. Let's be like them. Okay, let's be like these people, these other nations. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
All right, keep going.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so poor at hearing that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Okay,
and you gotta remember these wicked leaders. They're only getting crumbs, but that's all they want. They'll abandon their own people just to get a crumb from the heathen. And y'all know what I'm talking about. The Sambos and whoever, the bozos and the Sambos will tap, dance, and dance for the heathen just to get a crumb. And they'll step on their own people. And this is what the wicked leadership does. They'll step on their own people, the popular ones, just to get a bone from the heathen, just to, whatever, just so they could get one of his daughters or whatever. Okay. And not knowing that the daughter don't like him either. Okay. Just using him, whatever, just using him. Okay. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen. Okay, the place of exercise.
That's why they go into the hoods and get the LeBrons and they get the all these they're molding them when they're young. Okay, because they're going to mold them and they're going to make profit off of them. Okay, and what do? We copy off that. I can't remember when athletes before they get on the team, they got all this stuff that they got to do. And how high can you jump big row? And how high can you jump through a hoop, whatever, just to see But this is all coming from the heathen. Go ahead. Come, showcase. The combine. Just see. Let's see how high this Negro can jump. Jump and hit the metal, the top metal. Let's see how high they can do. But this comes from the heathen. This comes right from the heathen nation. And what did? We copied off of it, and we wanted to be like that. So we built our own place where we could do that. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant.
And when it says made themselves, so they stopped following the laws, statutes, and commandments. They stopped following because they started to look like the other heathen nations. They stopped following the law, statutes, commandments, and started following the customs of the heathen nation. Go ahead.
And joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief.
Okay, so they pretty much they asked for it. They asked for it. They asked to be like the heathen. Shalom. They asked to be like the heathens. They wanted to be like the heathens. And so they pretty much said, hey, Officer Warrior said it. When you want to be like the heathens and you mix in with the heathen nations, you're going to be put down at the bottom and you're going to be put into slavery. All right? You're going to be put into slavery. All right? So let's go ahead and let's see what happens now. Now we're going to see what happens. We joined ourselves with the heathen. We asked for it, and guess what the heathen? You would think though when we mixed with the heathen that he'd give us something like hey, sit beside us in our kingdom. That's not what happens. We're going to see exactly what happens. Let's see what their God or their ruler does. Okay, let's go. Let's jump to verse 20.
Verse 20. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
That's what happens when you join into another nation. They come up against you. They come up against you, whether you're marching, whether you're singing. They come up against you with police dogs, fire hoses, knees on your neck. That's how they're coming up against you when you're trying to join with them. That's exactly how they come up against you. And it ain't gonna be no mercy. Okay, no mercy. That's exactly what happens. Okay, keep going.
Verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof.
Now, you think about this. Not only do they put you as a slave, they take your stuff. Think about all the black artists that other nations have gotten rich off of. What was the group? What was it? New Edition? Weren't they performing and still living in the projects? They're still living in the projects. And what was that? NWA? What was that? What was the Jerry Heller? I can't remember the guy. The heathen that was making money off them. This is that they take your stuff, your resources, just like they came into the temple, just like they came to the sanctuary and took all of. And this is you joining in. This is us joining in with them. That's the reward. They come in, they take us into captivity. And they take all of our resources. And that's the cycle. All right? Go ahead.
Verse 22. And the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the bowls, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he poured off.
Took all that away. Okay, let's jump to verse 24, if you can. Baba Kushab.
Verse 24, and when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proud.
Now when they take our stuff, they build their Washington D.C.s, their New York cities, their Londons, their Parises, what else? Their Los Angeles and great bridges. They take our resources and build off that. Okay. This has happened all through history. It's happening today. It's happened all throughout. Okay, when we ask for other leadership, this is exactly what happened. Okay, let's go to verse 25. Baba Kushab.
Verse 25. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were.
Okay, then what happens is Israel cries out. This is the pattern. Israel asked for different leadership. They asked to be like the heathen nations. We start mixing in with their gods. We get put into captivity, and then we cry out. This is the thing. That's the whole book of Judges right there. That's the whole book of Judges. Okay, because we cry out and mourn because we see it's not good for us. Okay, we see that this wasn't the best thing. Following these other leaders or following our wicked leadership was not the best idea. So we look at that. All right. Let's jump down to let me see. Let's go down to let's jump down. Let me see. Let's jump down to verse. Let's jump down to verse 29.
Verse 29. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude.
Okay. Now you're gonna see that you're gonna see how the heathen works, because he always does this. It's funny, after the heathen takes us into captivity, like after we're under the captivity, what does the heathen usually do? Can somebody tell me? Because it's always a pattern. He's crushed us, took our identity. We're now his slaves. Then what does the heathen usually do? Anybody want to go ahead?
When they create the problem, they come in and quote unquote fix the problem.
Well, they'll fix the problem. They'll come in. How do they usually talk to us though? Smoothly. I want to be your friend. Don't you like me? We're all equal. It's like that's how they talk. We're friends. We are equity. That's when they'll start talking about equity. You took all your resources. Then they'll start coming and talk about equity. We all should share in this. That's what happens. And this is exactly what happens in the next verse. Go ahead.
Verse 30. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. And that's
why there's a scripture. I think it's I know it's chapter 12. I can't think of the book. It's like never trust thine enemy. I know it's in the Apocrypha. Aisha Ali probably know the exact book. But it's talking about never trust thine enemy, because it talks about how his iron rusteth. So does so is he. I'm paraphrasing, but because he comes in smooth. And I think there's another scripture in Psalm talking about his words are smooth as butter. Okay, and that's actually how the serpent came. Okay, smooth operator. Actually, in Hebrew, it talks about the serpent came. He was the smoothest of all the beasts of the fields, crafty. Okay, he comes in smooth, wants to be our friend now. After he's put his knee on her neck and killed us, now it's like he wants to be a friend. Okay. So this is like that, and it's all deceit. Go ahead.
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. Okay,
that's exactly what happened in the garden. Okay, he reveals himself after you start trusting him. But first he gets your trust. He gets, and we see that all through slavery, and throughout our history. So the first thing after he's taken us into captivity, then he gets to trust us. I like that you invented that. Taekwon might have did a nice invention. I like that. Let's look at this together. We could go in on this, of course, and then all of a sudden he's got the whole invention, and we don't even know what black even invented that. Okay, just different ways that he gets you to trust and believe in him. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side.
Okay, took down the houses and walls, took down everything. Keep going.
Verse 32. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle.
Okay, they take our women and our children. Okay, and usually, and this is another thing that usually happens, because I'm a teacher, so I see this firsthand. But all of us have been in school. When they take our children, what is the thing that they do? Does anybody know? This is because Aisha, you're a teacher too. What is the what is the thing that they always do? Especially they did this to the natives. When they took the natives into captivity, this is the first thing they always do to the children. What does anybody want to take a shot at it? Aisha, I don't want to call you out because I know you're a teacher. And I know you know. Go ahead, Bakwasha. Wait, okay, that's what. Well, they make them not look like how they look culturally. Okay, come.
They separate them from the other brothers and sisters.
They separate them from other brothers and sisters. What was that? What am I thinking of? CPS, right?
Is that it is?
Or something. The system, how they separated the children from the family.
Come.
Anything else? Those are good answers. Go ahead.
They separate the smarter ones from the regular. They kind of pick the best of the best children.
Okay, all right. There's one another thing that they do. They re-educate them and send them to schools. Because they got to forget who they are. What was the thing they did? I like history. When they sent the native kids to school, they say save the child, kill the Indian. I might be saying it wrong. Okay, save the child, kill the Indian. So they always send our children to
Right, okay. If you can start getting some food in the right order, okay?
Go ahead and make sure y'all brothers go ahead and make sure y'all eat. They send them to schools, okay, so they could be re-educated, so they can forget their language. Don't speak Hebrew, speak English. Don't speak Hebrew, speak Spanish, speak French and Dutch. Okay, so that's another thing. Make sure that's another. You really forget a lot of times who you are when you forget your language, because your language is a lot of times helps you with your identity. Okay, so that's another thing. And so when they take the children, they pretty much, re-educate the children. What do they do with the women? Anybody want to take a shot at that? When they take our women, what do they really do? Well, we know that they rape them and all that stuff, but they do something else too. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Good.
Or to empower them over the
There
men.
we go. They put them against the men. Now it's a competition. Okay? That black man doesn't have to be over you. You can be over him. And that is 101 of the Christian church.
Right.
That's Christian church right there. So you got go ahead, Batak. We're in Maccabees, First Maccabees 1 and verse. I think we're in verse 33. All right. Yeah, they take the women and put them against the men. Okay, you have to be under no man. And here's the thing that people forget, and I keep telling people this: every nation, when they talk about the women's empowerment, no other nation believes that except really blacks, Hispanics, and the blacks, Hispanic. Like other nations will say it, but they'll still go under a man. Like the what I don't want to. What is the word I should say? The conquistador's wife, the oppressor's wife, she'll sit up there and say, yeah, she'll lead the movement, but then she's gonna go home to a white man.
Right.
I don't know if I've seen an Asian woman in the movement. I don't know, but even if she's in the movement, she's going home to her Asian man. I try to tell people, like, the only people that believe it is us. We need to stop believing that. You know what I'm saying? We need to stop believing that. But that's what they'll do when they take our women and the children. Okay, let's go ahead and skip down because I want to get to the meat of the story. Let's see. Let's go skip down to. I want to get to verse. Let's see. Let's get to Let's go to verse 40. Let's see. Let's go to verse 44. Let's get to verse 44. And after we're done to verse 53, I'm going to ask you to get another reading because you've been reading for a while too. Go ahead. Verse 44.
Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws.
Yahweh Shem Yah Sharakatah.
Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
Okay, so they're going to make sure that their education system is all out, is all throughout. Okay, they're going to send messengers, and that's like the teachers, really. They're going to send the teachers and the social workers. They're going to send them all throughout to make sure everybody's a part of this system, like agents of the matrix. Okay, it's like the agents, making sure that system is working. Go ahead.
Verse 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days. Okay, so they're pretty much, in order to keep our customs, you got to forsake your identity. And that's pretty much what you got to forsake yourself being an Israelite. You can call yourself anything else. You can't call yourself an Israelite. You can't call yourself a Jew. You can call yourself transgender, a transformer, if you like to. But you cannot call yourself a Jew. You cannot call yourself an Israelite. Okay? You can call yourself any of that. Anything else. Okay? You can call yourself a Muslim, whatever. It's just you cannot call yourself that. And that's usually what happens. Let's keep it going. Let's go to verse 48. Verse 48. That they should also lead their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness, and profanation.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Verse 49, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Okay, so that they could forget the law and change all the ordinances. Okay, let's jump to verse 52.
Verse 52, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land.
Okay, so this is pretty much the lesson that we got when we follow after other nations, after following after wicked leadership, we go into captivity. We forsake of the laws and statutes and customs and commandments that the Most High gave us, and we're put under the foot or the neck or under the knee of a wicked of a heathen nation. Okay, and this is what happens now. That's because of wicked leadership. Okay, Slack, is any other Akim that hasn't eaten? I think y'all can go ahead. So I can catch everybody. The other Akim. The one, let me get another.
I got you, sir.
Oh, the waters. But you can go ahead and get something to eat. Go ahead, Bachar. You can get something to eat too. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let Bachar read.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You can get something to eat.
Come on, sir.
Come on, right? Can you hear me, sir? All right. Now let's get. We're gonna go to. We're in First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 54. Okay, and we're gonna go into pretty much what happens. We're gonna go into pretty much what would happen in the month of December. So, testing. No, turn around. All right, let's go to, we're in First Maccabees chapter 1. Let's look at verse 54. Go ahead.
Now the 15th day of the month Castle in 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
Okay, this is the month of December. Okay, and this is what they start to do. They built their idols up. So go ahead and keep going. Verse 55.
Verse 55, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets.
Go ahead. Verse 56.
And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found.
Stop right there. Now notice when we're getting into the captivity of heathen nations, it says they rent the books of the law. They destroy our culture. Destroying our culture is destroying the books of the law. That our culture gets destroyed like that.
Right.
Because remember, we can't be an Israelite. We can't say that. So they destroy our customs, our heritage. And the heathen takes our book and then claims it as his own. And then he pollutes it. He uses our book and pollutes it and tries to make it as his own. That's pretty much, that's how you can look at this. They're breaking up the pieces of the law. Okay, keep going.
Which they found, they burnt them with fire.
Keep going.
And whosoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or any committed to the law, the king's commandment was put them to death.
That they should be put to death. Okay, you know this, and this is what happened to all the righteous people, the apostles, the prophets. They were put to death because they were adhering to the Most High, and that's and you can't have people like that. They're so-called troublemakers. Okay, they're troublemakers because they affect the flow of the system. Okay. They affect that flow. All right, keep going. Baba Kushan.
Verse 58. Thus did they by their authority to the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city.
Now look at verse 59. We're going to go to verse 59. I think verse 59 is very profound. Go ahead.
Now the 5 and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar.
What day was that? Say it again.
5 and 20th day.
Okay, the 25th day of December. This is what's happening on the 25th day of December. The month that, the day that everybody says is supposed to be, jolly, and this is the jolly time. Let's just see what happens, what the heathen does in the jolly time. Go ahead.
They did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which is upon the altar of God.
Go ahead.
At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women.
They're killing our women at this time. Okay? They're killing our women. Keep going.
And had caused their children to be circumcised.
Okay, so the women that were following after righteousness on the 25th day, December 25th, they were killing them. Okay, they were slaughtering them. This is the jolly time of the year. Keep going.
And they hanged the infants about their necks.
They were hanging our children. Come on, go ahead, sir. Sorry, sir. I couldn't hear you. Come. Come. Right, that were teaching their children the law and willing to die. Actually, give him a hand. That's afterwards. Plus the water. That's really the strength. That what Officer Warren brought out is strong. A strong black woman is not the one that's like, I just want to be independent. I can do all bad by myself. Is the one that's going to teach her children the law and die for it. There's a scripture in Proverbs. Somebody probably knows it. It says, "Remember the law of your mother." Okay, I think it's like the word of your father, the law of your mother, because the mother's really the first teacher. Okay, just carrying you around, teaching you how to walk and talk and your first words. Okay, and the law should be on that child's lips, taught by the mother. Okay, not saying what you can do bad by all by. No, that's not the right attitude. Keep going.
Verse 61, and hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised.
All right, keep going. Let's read all the way through verse 64.
Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
Okay, here's the profound part. There were people in Israel, because you got to remember, the Most High will always have a remnant. He will always have a remnant. There's always going to be somebody in the nation of Israel that's not going to be for the nonsense. Always like that. Even when Israel was going off track, even when Moses was up in the mountains and going off track, when he came back, you saw them Levites. Them Levites was real zealous. They went out and they were so zealous for the law, they was killing brothers and fathers that turned away from the Most High. You always going to have a group. You always going to have a remnant that's going to be not for the heathen nation. That's going to be like, no, we're not going to stand for that. We're going to keep the covenant that the Most High made with our forefathers. There's always going to be. It's never the large number either. It's always the odd group. As Officer Warren said earlier, they're the ones that don't follow the popular group. They're the oddballs. And I'm not saying oddballs be disrespectful. I'm saying they're just the ones that stand out that people say that are odd. If I say it better. Okay? Keep it going. Let's finish this off. Come.
Verse 63. Wherefore the writers had died, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. Verse 64. And there was very great wrath upon Israel.
Okay, so the first part is what we just wanted to talk about, how Israel got to this part and got into captivity. Wicked leadership, forsaking the covenant. Okay, now we're going to see how Israel regained their identity back. That's the lesson of Hachaanakah. Hachaanakah means what again? Somebody tell me? Who was paying attention? Hachaanakah. I know Paquash. Paquash has been on fire tonight. Go ahead, Paquash. The dedication. So now we're going to find out, how did Israel get back to that, and why do we observe the dedication? Now let me see. I know Paquash was, and what's the root word for Hachaanakah? Go ahead. Discipline. Okay, the way that you get back to your identity is you have to have discipline, and you will see that the men in the righteous men, the righteous leadership, they had discipline. Okay, and what discipline is that? Someone want to take a stab at that? How would they show discipline? Anybody know? Go ahead, Darwin.
Following law, statutes, commandments, sir.
They're following the law, statutes, Shalom, Cat. Shalom, Cat. Following after the law, statutes, and commandments. That's how they show discipline. Okay, so now we're going to see the compare and contrast. let's go. We're gonna jump over to we can get maybe another reader. Let's go. We're gonna jump into First Maccabees. We're gonna jump into chapter 2. We saw the wicked leadership. Now we're gonna look at some righteous leadership, okay? Or some righteous people that aren't with the nonsense, aren't we're following after. So we're now in First Maccabees. We're in chapter 2, and we're verse 1. Baba Kushal, thank you, Darwin.
Come, sir. We got First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 1.
Go ahead.
In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin.
Okay, so there's a man named Mattathias. Okay, we're gonna see what Mattathias is about. He comes from a line of priests. Okay, excuse me, and we're gonna see what his attitude is. Okay, his attitude, of course, contrasts with the wicked leadership. Excuse me. Keep going.
Come. Verse 2. And he had 5 sons. Joanne called.
We're at First Maccabees chapter 2, sir. And verse 2, sir. Nadar, whenever you're ready. Go through verse. I'll keep going.
Come. First Maccabees chapter 2 and 2.
Go ahead.
And he had 5 sons. Joanne called Caddis. Verse 3. Simeon called the sissy. Is that it? Thassi. Salakia. I don't call him a sissy. Verse 4. Judas, who was called Maccabeus. Verse 5. Eleazar, called Aviran. And Jonathan, whose surname was Appius.
Okay, so he had 5 sons. Okay, now let's look at how. Now, obviously, we're going to see how his character is, and we're going to see how his sons followed in his character. Okay, because the leadership of the father, righteous leadership of the father, will bring about righteousness from the sons. Okay, all right, and let's look at verse 6.
First Maccabees 2 and 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem.
So he sees the blasphemy. And this is how you can tell somebody that loves their people. Because when they see the blasphemies, when they see their people off track, they're moved to do something. They don't do what the Christian church does. The Christian church will do what? What would the Christian church do in this situation when they see their people sin? Well, they'll probably join in with it. But go ahead, Batat Salaki. Yeah, they'll join along with it, or they'll sing and dance and play a tambourine. Okay, they'll sing and dance, but a righteous leader will be moved to do something about it. Think Jeremiah Hyman said, Commander General, I'm going to talk. Sorry, you going to say something? No, go ahead. Go ahead. Jeremiah Hyman, I remember he brought up a point of saying, you being the answer to a prayer. Just not praying, but be the answer. And righteous men are the answer. Okay, go ahead, Baba Shah.
You said the speakers?
Sorry.
I don't know about that speaker. I know about some little John.
Let's read verse. I can read verse 7. Verse 7. It says, "He said, woe is me, wherefore I was born to see the misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary in the hand of strangers."
There you go.
Okay. Wow. All right.
I got it. When we read it.
Come on. Let's reread verse 7. Go ahead.
Come on. First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 7. He said, woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers.
Okay, so he's moved by this. He sees the condition his people is in, and he's moved by it. Okay, this is what a righteous leader would do. Okay, and this is what leaders will do to regain their identity back. Okay, because he's somebody that wants to keep the identity of Israel, not join into what the heathens do. Okay, let's jump to verse 12. Okay, so we're going to talk about how Mattathias hated the condition his people was in. Okay, so he's moved by it. We're going to see the actions that he takes because of it. All right, let's jump to verse 12 for me.
This book of First Maccabees, chapter 2, and verse 12. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
Okay, so he's seeing what's all that's going on with his people, the condition that these people are in. Okay, and he's moved by it, and he's upset by it. He's moved to anger by it. Okay, keep going.
Verse 13. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?
Okay, keep going.
Verse 14. The Menathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore.
Mourn for their people. Okay, they ain't singing, dancing. He's mourning for his people. Okay, he's mourning for them. All right, let's go ahead and we'll just jump a little bit because I want to get to some more on this step. Let's jump to verse 16.
Come on.
Come on, sir.
In that today's leadership, blacks and Latinos, today's leaders, you don't see them on anything about the conditions of our people.
Come on, sir.
Really step up, or talk about the culture that we got there, but then nobody be stepping up like the way Commander General
Right.
Come.
Israelites from University of Practice Knowledge is doing.
Come, sir. Come.
They'd rather be playing nice and pretty in front of the white man.
Right.
Come.
When there's lives at stake right here.
Come.
Families' lives at stake right here. It's a nation that needs this help.
Come.
Christ cared for his nation.
Come.
And his sons, they cared for his people.
Come.
That's what we always got to be. That's what I want to say.
Come. That's excellent point. Excellent point. And when you care for your people, like what we do in the UK, we're going to do something about it. Okay, we're not going to just play a tambourine in the church and try to appease the heathen. That's an excellent point, Captain. All right, let's go to verse 16. We're going to read actually verse 16 through 24, but I'm going to stop you, about Kushan, and then we'll see if we can get another read after a few. I know the Dar one.
Come.
A little bit.
Got you, sir.
All right.
First Maccabees, chapter 2, and verse 16. And when many of Israel came unto them, Menathias also and his sons came together.
Go ahead.
Verse 17. Then answered the king's officers and said to Menathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with his sons and brethren.
Keep going.
Verse 18.
Oh no, sorry. So we come up this.
Verse 18. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. And thou, Slaki.
So read it from the top one more time, just so that way we get you can visualize this in your head. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because think about our politicians today. Think about our leadership today. When the leaders of America, the United States, come to them with an offer.
Come,
Read it
sir.
from the top.
First Maccabees chapter 1, First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 18. Now therefore came thou first and fulfilled the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall.
Trying to offer favoritism to this king.
Come.
Right? That's what he's trying to do. Just like how he would do the TD Jakes, crypto dollar, the Black Caucus, the Latino Caucus. That's how they do. You know what I'm saying?
Come.
Continue.
And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And
that doesn't sound like the offering, so you can sell out.
right.
You understand? Keep going.
And many rewards. Verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
Then Menathias answered and spake with a loud voice.
Mm-hmm.
Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is dope.
And
this right here, Salaki, this right here is something that our leadership should learn, but they're never gonna learn. The same way these sellouts back in the day, All they did was wanting to be on the good side of the king and make sure that they live and make sure that they feed. Didn't give a damn about whether the nation fed or how they live. Look at Baltimore. Look at D.C. Look at wherever we at.
Right.
That's a product of our failure of the leadership that we do have, right? Mattathias cared enough about his nation to stand up against what we're about to read. Keep going. Read it from the top one more time.
Come on, sir. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice.
Now, he wasn't soft-spoken either. He said it with a loud voice. Go ahead.
Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away, every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments. Verse 20.
Stop right there. You see what's happened, right? So everybody left their ways. Everybody left their traditions. Everybody left whoever they were serving, right? And now up under this king, right? Keep going.
Verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our
That
fathers.
was very important. Because Mattathias was saying, no, we choose the way our forefathers walked. Me and my children, we choose the way our forefathers walked. We're not going to do what every nation did and just follow the king. We don't do those things. You know what I'm saying? In the Israelite school, university, practical knowledge, we don't compromise to America.
Right.
We follow what the Most High say, because that's way more important. We do what the Lord say. You know what I'm saying? Because it's important. That's why Commander General Hachaanakah and the generals been doing this since forever.
Right.
To get us to where we need to be and more. Continue.
Verse 21.
You were about to say something? Okay, go ahead.
Verse 21. God forbid that we should forsake the laws and the ordinances.
There it is right there. God forbid that we should forsake the law and ordinances. We already know our religious leaders, they forgot all the laws except tithes.
Right.
That's the only one they remember. Pay your tithes so I can get this multi-billion-dollar plane.
Right.
Pay your tithes so I can fill up these seats in Madison Square Garden. You know what I'm saying? Pay your tithes so I can keep the lights on in this mega church. And so that way I can roll around in a Rolls Royce or Bentleys.
Right.
Pay your tithes because I work for God. When Christ said it clear, the Son of Man had not a place to rest his head.
Yes, sir.
Have holes, right? And birds have nests. Yeah, the Son of Man had not a place
He's
to
not
lay
talking to
his
Mike,
head.
but that's the speaker that
You know what I'm
he's
saying?
connected to, sir.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on, sir.
You
Just bring it closer to you.
also.
There you go.
All right,
We in 22, sir.
go ahead.
Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words.
You know what?
We will not hearken to the king's words.
Because why? He just let you know before, because he's not gonna not ever stop following what the Lord say, not keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. He's not gonna hearken to the Lord's to this king's words. Keep going.
To go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
So in other words, we're not gonna deter. We straight. We ain't going this way or that way. We want to do what we always did. Keep going.
23. Now, when we had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all the sacrifice on the altar, which was at Moton, according to the king's commandment. Verse 24. Which thing, when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew upon the altar. Verse 25. Also the king's commissioners, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down.
That's how serious Mattathias was. And staying locked and doing what the Most High said is not. Don't go out and do this to our enemies.
Right.
It's not the time yet. You know what I'm saying? But the zeal that Mattathias had, you better have.
Go.
The care that Mattathias had, you better have. You know what I'm saying? You better have that, because that's what's required of us. Ain't nobody else doing this. Everybody too scared to do this. Everybody too afraid to stand up. I got a whole bunch of yapping yap on the nets, in social media, talking about what they're going to do. We doing it. Go ahead.
Like, I don't know if it's said, but like, we get more, we need to protect Israel and Gaza and everybody else, as opposed to protecting our own people.
Right.
Yeah. And walking Black Lives Matter and all that, well, none of that matters except here. You know? Continue.
Verse 26. Thus dwelt he zealously for the law of God.
What did he do?
He dwelt, it's like, thus he dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas, like it, did unto Zimri, the son of Solomon. Verse 2.
Y'all recall the book of Exodus? Y'all know who's Phineas? You know?
We did start on Exodus 23.
You know who's Phineas? Who's Phineas?
Phineas, he found Phineas as well. Phineas, that was from when he stepped out last week.
No. You know Phineas?
Phineas?
Yeah.
That's from
Who he was the son of? Who was he the son of? Aaron. Aaron, right? Right. And y'all know what he did that day, right? He saw Simeon, right? The Simeonite bringing a heathen woman into the tent, right in front of everybody, and the zealousness that he had to making sure that Israel don't go off, he did something about it. You know what I'm saying? And in that seal, that's why he's giving us a reminder of that day.
Okay.
Right? That's why it's mentioned in here. That kind of zeal must not the thighs had. Continue.
Come. Verse 27. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
Go ahead.
Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Verse 29. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went.
Hold on. Drop down the time, right? Drop down to 45.
Come, sir. First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 45. The Matthias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. Verse 26. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. Verse 47. They pursued.
At this time, this is when they started taking back the temple. Okay?
Come.
Keep going.
Verse 47. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands. Verse 48. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles.
This is after. So if they didn't go rid, you can go back and be it on your own. But this is the guerrilla warfare between Matthias and the Israelites who chose to follow the Lord. Chose to follow the Lord's statutes. This gives you the insight of what was guerrilla warfare, just to get back what was belonged to us. Okay? And fought against the beast and won. Okay? Continue.
Verse 48. It's like verse 49. Now, when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, now have pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Verse 50. Now, therefore, my sons, be ye zealous of the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers.
That's an honorable thing, to raise your children up, to know who they are, to follow their customs and culture, and to stand on it. You know what I'm saying? Because the way we living in this empire without this truth, without following what our forefathers did, we're gonna be like everybody else in the world, right? And we're not gonna do what the Lord say to do. And in addition to that, we always conform to how America say we should, which is what was our lives back before the truth. You know what I'm saying? We was doing all manner of wickedness, but now we're gonna change our lives and we're gonna stand on what the Lord say.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Verse 51. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their times. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name.
And guess what? That's what we're supposed to do. Look in the scriptures and see what our forefathers did and all the things they went through. And remember those things so that we can move forward. how you do. Go to third chapter, 12 verse.
Third chapter, 12 verse, sir.
Yeah.
Come on, sir. It's book of First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 12. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius swore it also, and therewith he fought all his life long. Verse 13. Now when Saron, a prince
No,
of...
my bad. Chapter 3, verse 1 and 2.
You said 3 and 1, sir?
Yes.
Salaki. First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 1. Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead. Verse 2. And all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father.
So here they are continuing the battle with the Greeks still at this time, okay? There's still coming up some issues with them.
Come.
All right, so let me see where we at. I don't know how we laid this down. Okay. And anyway, continue.
Come. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel.
Okay, that's what he wanted. Okay, I'm gonna go with his game plan. I go to chapter 4, verse 36.
You said chapter 4?
Verse 36, yeah.
Come.
And I'm doing this just to, because we only got like half hour.
Come, sir.
So 4:36.
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up. Discomfited, Salaki. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Verse 37. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. Verse 38. And when they saw the sanctuary desolated and the altars profaned and the gates burned up and the shrubs growing into the courts as in the forest or in one of the mountains.
So you can imagine what they were seeing at this given point in time. The sanctuary looking all out of order. Things weren't shiny. Things weren't beautified. Things, the shrubs everywhere just looked terrible. And they felt some type of way about that because we're just not talking about anything right here. We're talking about the temple of the Lord, and that's part of who we are. Yeah, like this school is part of who we are as an organization, as a people. These things matter to us like if it was your own family member.
Right.
All right, keep going.
Yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down. Verse 39. They rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads. Verse 40.
Slug, you drop down the slug if I may. Let me see what. You drop down the verse 49.
Come. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 49. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlesticks and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense.
So now they took the temple the way it looked and now started working on it to get it right. And then as they doing it, they're putting new candlesticks, new ornaments, incense burners, and so on and so forth. That's why every year when we remember these days, right? This memorial, there's a memorial. We do that. We take our temples, we take the schools, and we beautify them in honor of what these men have suffered, in order to remember that. Continue.
And the table, verse 50. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted.
So just to jump down a little bit more to 55th verse.
Come. First Maccabees chapter 4 and 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven,
Right.
who had given them good success.
See that? That's righteous of our forefathers to think that, because they gave all the glory to the Most High for this. You understand?
Come.
Because like if the Lord's with you, He is with you, and if He ain't, then it's a problem. All right. So they gave, the water by Yahweh Shai for all this. All right. Drop down to 58.
Come.
Where's what's his name?
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 58.
What's his name?
Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Verse 39. Moreover,
read one more time.
come, sir. First Maccabees chapter 4 and 58. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so jump from there down to chapter 6 and verse 1.
First Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 1. About that time, King Antiochus, traveling through the high countries, heard say that Elimas in the country of Persia was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver and gold. Verse 2. And that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold and breastplates and shields, with Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Grecians, had left there. Come, sir. Wanna take my spot? Somebody read. I'm in First Maccabees. Hey, sir, I gotta slide.
You done? You can read 6 and 1. 6 and 1. Stop there.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 1. About the time King Antiochus traveled through the high countries, heard say that Elamias in the country of Persia was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver, and gold.
Continue.
Verse 2. And that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold and breastplates and shields, which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Grecians, had left there. Continue. Verse 3. Wherefore he came and sought to take the city and to spoil it, but he was not able, because they of the city, having had warning thereof, verse 4, rose up against him in battle. So he fled and departed thence with great heaviness and returned to Babylon. Verse 5, moreover, there came one who brought him tidings into Persia, that the armies which went against the land of Judea were put to flight.
So you see, there's another ruler trying to now take control of Israel at the time also. Okay? But we're seeing what's happening here. Keep going. We're going to go a little bit more.
Verse 6, and that Lysias, who went forth first with great power, was driven away of the Jews, and that they were made strong by the armor and power and store of spoils which they had gotten of the armies whom they had destroyed. Verse 7. Also they that had pulled down the abomination which he had set up upon the altar in Jerusalem, that they had compassed about the sanctuary with high walls as before, and his city Bethsura.
Continue just a little bit. There's a part here that he wanted to bring out that I'm gonna bring out. Okay? Continue. To verse 9.
Skip to verse 9, sir. Verse 9. And there he continued many days, for his grief was ever more and more, and he made account that he should die. Verse 10, wherefore he called for all his friends and said unto them, the sleep is gone from mine eyes, and my heart faileth for very care. Verse 11, and I thought with myself, into what tribulation.
You jump down to chapter 7, verse 1. Let's go with this. As he was reading, what we're seeing is now another ruler trying to overcome Israel, trying to put them to destruction. But found out that wasn't happening because the men were in order and they were fighting basically for their lives to maintain what they already had fought for prior.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 7 and verse 1. In the 150th year, Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, departed from Rome and came up with a few men unto a city of the sea coast and reigned there. Verse 2, and as he entered. Verse 2, and as he entered into the palace of his ancestors, so it was that his forces had taken Antiochus and Lysias to bring them unto him. Verse 3, wherefore, when he knew it, he said, let me not see their faces. Verse 4, so his host slew them. Now, when Demetrius was set upon the throne of his kingdom, verse 5, there came unto him all the wicked and ungodly men of Israel, having Alchemus, who was desirous to be high priest, for their captain. Verse 6, and they accused the people to the king, saying, Judas and his brethren have slain all thy friends.
You see what's happening here right now. You got some wicked men of Israel trying to look for favoritism to this Roman. Okay? And now he's trying to accuse Judas and the men that were with him of certain things. You know what I'm saying? Continue. There's a point that I'm trying to reach over here.
Yes, sir. And driven us out of our own land.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 7. Now therefore, send some man who thou trustest, and let him go and see what havoc he hath made among us, and in the king's land, and let him punish them with all them that aid them. Verse 8. Then the king chose Bacchides, a friend of the king, who ruled beyond the flood, and was a great man in the kingdom, and faithful to the king. Verse 9. And him he sent with wicked Alchemus, who made high priest, and commanded that he should take vengeance of the children of Israel. Verse 10.
Hold on.
It's
not okay. You got to read it. Second Maccabees 7 and 7. Go ahead. Let's look it up. Dictionary.
Like somebody that deal with metals and that type of stuff.
Let's look it up, and then that way everybody get understand. It was Second Maccabees 7 and 1.
This is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 1. And it came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken.
Now this is a perfect example of staying staunch for the word of the Most High and for the work of it. And it's an honorable thing of what we're about to see.
Right.
Me right now. Something that's lacking in our community. Right. Except here, of course.
This is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 1. And it came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh.
So they rather side with the king, right, and say it's okay to eat pork is the other white meat. It's the same thing that's happening right now in our community within our churches. You know what I'm saying? They eat all kinds of abominations, shrimp, crab, lobster, pork. You know why? Because America says you can do those things. You know why? Because America says it's a delicacy. It's the other white meat. But that's not us. For us, we should be following what the Most High say. It says clearly, trust in the Lord. The churches, they don't tell you the reason that's the number one, that the Lord said not to do it, but they don't tell you the health implications of eating these abominable things. You know what I'm saying? The Lord said in Exodus 11:7, thou shalt not eat the swine. He gave you stipulations or the rules and regulations of what we can eat as far as animals go. Okay, it's clearly there, but they don't want to follow that because they want to follow after their own lust, you know. So continue reading. Right? Swine's flesh.
And compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips.
So they said, "No, we're not eating this pork." You know what I'm saying? We're not eating none of that. And they were tormented. Continue.
Verse 2. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask?
Say that again?
Some people might say, right, what do they feel about why would they eat swine flesh? What we have to realize, even up to today, it's about dominance. It's about who's your God, right? It's just like the pledging allegiance. If everybody stands up and pledges allegiance, if you're not doing it, why are you not doing it? So you have to, by eating swine flesh, you're making them your God in that hand. You'll say your God.
And you don't care about what the Lord say anyway. And you're going to be up in church with the Bible and read all these precepts and say you love God, but yet do nothing that the Lord say. You know what I'm saying? Good point. You know? Go ahead. Continue.
Verse 2. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die, rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers.
That right there was an honor level. What you want us to do? What you trying to find out? You want us to stop doing what God said to do? No, we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I have to say it again. Our church leaders don't emphasize what they read in the book, except tithes. That they'll do all day. But what's in the book, they do not apply. You know what I'm saying? And that's real. You don't hear me? Go ahead.
Verse 3. Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot.
See that? Go ahead. This master was wicked. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know the Romans had this device called it was in the shape of a bowl, and you would be put inside there. They would light the fire, and then you get cooked alive. I forgot what it's called. But they had a device like that. This guy is asking to bring pots and cauldrons, right? And we're gonna see what he's gonna do with that. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on.
As a mother seeing your child go through this, that's going to have a psychological effect on anybody who ain't down for this. You know what I'm saying? Even here, it's kind of harder to swallow that. You know what I'm saying? When you're about the Lord's business, this is something that, like these brothers went through. I'm saying that it's going to happen to us now. It can happen. If it ever gets to that, you're going to just have to be ready to stand for what's right. These sons and their mother, they stood for what was right. You know what I'm saying? You can't say that about our politicians. Can't say that about our political leaders. You know what I'm saying? Look at, as I said earlier, look at the conditions we live in.
Hachaanakah.
Continue.
Verse 5. Now, when he was thus maimed and all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed,
Y'all know oil, if you ever fried some chicken and when that fizzles and some of it falls, that's painful. It's still, the mic is up. I mean, the speaker. Maybe like this. Right. So as I was saying, y'all know, like when you ever fry some chicken, fry anything when just a little oil fall and that burns. Imagine this brother being put into a big cauldron full of oil to get dried. That's right there, like I don't know. Did y'all picture that?
Hachaanakah, sir.
That's rough right there.
Hachaanakah.
Continue.
They exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully,
That's right.
saying thus.
Think about that. Would TDJs do that? Would crap flow out there? They wouldn't. They wouldn't. Because they weak like that. But these brothers and their mother, they will bow. Continue.
Verse 6. The Lord God looketh upon us, and in truth hath comfort in us, as Moses in his song, which witness to their faces declared, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servants. Verse 7. So when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock.
Every time I read this, and I gotta keep it real, every time I read this, right, I'm picturing when Columbus came over. I don't know if you ever read those old history books with Bartolome de la Casa and all those history books. But I'm picturing the same thing that they would do to the Ephraim, the Taino Indians or Arawites, and how they would take and chop them up alive, chop their hands off, chop their noses off while they were alive, and then laughing at it.
Hachaanakah.
Taking your baby 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, 4 years old, and betting, all right, let's see who can one swing chop this child in half. And laughing and mocking at it.
Hachaanakah.
It sounds like the same devil we're reading here. That happened then. And I can imagine doing the doing when the slave trade was in full effect, all the atrocities that we do know about, let alone the ones we don't know about. Like just a few years ago, I mean, I learned about the devil's punch. What they call it, the devil's bow. Oh, we in Mississippi, am I right? Like, but what was it called? Right. You know, and then later on, finding out about what they did to the Catholics did to the tribe of Gad, the children. You know what I'm saying? So Lord knows how many more atrocities these devils have committed against our people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you look at this, you be like, this is the same one of the same people right here, doing the same thing what they always do to blacks and Latinos. Continue from where you left off.
Hachaanakah. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, they asked him, wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body?
They scalped his brother, man. Just so that way they can get him to eat that other white meat. Go ahead.
Verse 8. But he answered in his own language and said, no. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order, as the former did. Verse 9. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall rise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. Verse 10. After him was the third made a mocking stock. And when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon, holding forth his hands manfully.
So now think about this. We're reading this event that happened during the days of the Maccabees, right? And you can't help but think if they mock the Maccabees and they mock Christ the same way, he's talking about Romans now. They put that thorn right on his head. The thorn was what they call it, the crown of thorns, right? And put it on his hand. And as they doing all this, they mocking him too. That's what they do to us over here in America as well. They've been doing that. Not to believe me. Look at the books. You know what I'm saying? Look at the old folks telling what happened to them. Even today, you know, right on video, they come out and mock him right there. It ain't nothing new. The devil's gonna be the devil the way he was 1,000 years ago, even in 2023. I just understand. Maybe I do. Maybe I just don't want to accept it. But our people still don't see that. Still don't see it anymore. You had your hand up?
Yeah.
Look.
This is one of my favorite stories in the Bible because it's literally like a definition of no excuse. Like they was facing death, they still chose to follow like the time. And they had to watch their
That's a
brothers
great
die
point.
one.
That's good. Give me a hand for that. That's good. That's good right there. All right. You about to say something?
Verse 11.
Go ahead,
And-
continue.
Verse 11. And said courageously, these I had from heaven, and for his laws I despised them, and from him I hope to receive them again. Verse 12. Insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. Verse 13.
Like that, no, I'm gonna be back anyway.
Hachaanakah.
That's what basically what boiled down to. Do this all you want. I'm gonna come back. We're always gonna get.
Hachaanakah.
All right, continue.
Salakia.
But
Verse 13. Now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. Verse 14.
right? I'm gonna point that I made. Now you see why. Matter of fact, somebody get it for me.
Verse 14.
Where it says
14. Second Maccabees chapter 7.
double.
Verse 14.
Double, right? Is it the book of Revelation? Where it says double. Give them double. Give them Revelation 18, chapter 18. Somebody get me that. And the reason why I'm going there because we're seeing an example of what happened then, right? To this righteous family, and they died honorably because they refused to break God's laws. They refused to change their ways because it was more honorable to remember their history, their culture, their way of life, than to sell out like we've also read about certain of the Israelites who sided with the king. It's more honorable to stand on something, something righteous. A lot of us stand on something that don't mean nothing. But this was an honorable thing. You got it?
You got the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 6. Reward her even as she rewarded you.
That's it. Right there, read it again.
Reward her even as she rewarded
Now
you.
to a Christian, what we just read right now, right? And when we break that down to a Christian, that sounds cruel, right? Read it again.
Reward her even as she rewarded you.
Now, that might sound cruel. Oh, so you're going to do the same thing what we did to you? Well, guess what? Who's saying that to do that?
Right.
It's the Lord saying that. Reward her what?
Reward her even as she rewarded you.
Uh-huh.
And double unto her.
And what?
And double
And
unto
what?
her.
And what?
And double.
No, come on. Now, come on. Think about all the lynchings,
Right.
right? Y'all know there was a lynching not so long ago in Florida, right? A brother and a sister died under suicide. Yeah, y'all didn't hear about that?
Lie.
Yeah. was a brother who worked on one of those oil rigs, right? He kept complaining about how his co-workers was treating him different, you know what I'm saying? And it were mainly white people. Anyway, long story short, they found him hung with a note saying he committed suicide. Now think about that. With a note. And then the sister they found in the same circumstance. Did y'all hear about the old sister that they found in Annapolis, Maryland?
Lie.
Old sister on the tree. She was a senior citizen. Y'all didn't hear about that?
Lie.
Oh, y'all didn't hear about it? You better look it up. Yeah. I think it was about a year and a half ago. Come on, man. Now you hear me say that. Read that again.
The book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 6. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works.
For every black man, Hispanic, that's looking for reparations, for real justice, to get closure, that's what it's going to take.
Right.
That's what it's going to take. But more important, what's going to take for us to get there is to do what? Change who we are. Because if we don't change who we are, to get favor from the Lord, that'll never happen. More importantly, this school is built on what? Right? If we can't have that, what we got? If we don't got brotherhood, we got absolutely nothing. Period. And that's why it's important that you men, when you go out to teach, you're not just teaching. You're teaching, but you're also building up the nation that the Lord requires us to build.
Okay.
You understand? We won't get that. Is there any more on that? Go ahead.
And double unto her, double according to her works, and the cup which she had filled, for filled to her double.
So you can imagine that. Oh, you guys are wrong. You want to put white people in slavery. Well, guess what? It's a righteous thing.
Right.
Because how long we've been their slaves? Can anybody tell me how long we've been their slaves?
Over 400 years, sir.
Is it an end?
Lie.
No. And for our brothers and sisters out there that don't see that we're in slavery, we're guys to say, well, then, if we weren't in slavery, why are we still talking to our slave master's son?
Right.
That's just a small example. Why are we still living in the same condition we're in? That's just a small example, but it's real. I want that. That's what I want.
Right.
That to me sounds like real reparation, real closure. That's what that sounds like to me. You're right. We good, right? We good. All right. Who with that? I'm past. Who's unsecured? With the security announcement.
Yeah, I do it. Come on.
I'm gonna pass. You wanna do it? I'm gonna pass off. Officer the dog one. All right. Hey, I want you to give it up for the Most High. Right? It's important. Give it up for the Most High and Christ. Because without the Most High and Christ, we would not have Commander Junior Hana, the generals, the captains, the officers, this organization called the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Without the Most High in Christ, we would not be sitting here remembering these accounts. This is very important. This is the thing you teach your children. This is the thing you teach your children so that way they know where they stand, who they are, what's their culture, how we should live, how we should breathe, how we should move. The Darwin, you good? Anybody have questions before we start reading? Questions over here? Nada?
These are the ISUPK security announcements. We at ISUPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Hana. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They're to be saluted only. They're here to share themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After the 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is the commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18, verse 21, Malachi 3, verse 8 through 10, means tenth in Hebrew and is pronounced Mayashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offer for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give, upcoming holy convocations. Remind Akim and Akwakian to check on social media, such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and material. Also, you want to try to pay your $200 Passover fee. Pay that as soon as you can. If a brother wants to be a troop in the school, then he has to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, headband, or scarf. We're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel, Mighty. Mighty Shabbat, and Mighty Barak.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shabrak.
Yahweh Hashem Yashabakatam.
Yad Matah, Sub, Sisters of Mighty. Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Mighty Shabbat, and Mighty Barak.
Yahweh Shema Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah.
Yad Matah, class dismissed. Go on, sir.
Y'all can always finish on reading their accounts.
He said he wanted to. He said he wanted to roll.
How you get all that like that?
Oh man, that's that ain't nothing but a little bit.
It's like
I know I'm good, you know. Go ahead, you got it.
Hey, officer, the Don Juan,
Yes, sir.
come forward. We're gonna raise you up to 500. Yeah. These brothers are strong brothers in the school. These brothers in the earth. Like with us, man, I don't raise brothers up just because you might have 10 years in this place in the UPK. That ain't how you get raised up in the UPK. You get raised up by your actions. This brother just showed me as a 50 without even, like he made the initiative to do certain things for Baltimore school that I saw when Captain Shaparia told me, he said, yo, this brother, I said, who's the brother you talking about? And he said, the Don Juan. I said, what's his rank? He said, 50. And I said, okay. I ain't say nothing too much to Captain Shaparia about it, but I wanted to see what you was gonna do. And I saw your work, and I saw how you handled them Edomites when we was out there. And I saw you business-minded. You understand? And the water. Keep doing what you're doing. All right? It's definitely needed, and Baltimore is starting to grow. I see new brothers up in here. You know, the water. This is the right place to be. This is where you're going to change your life, and then you're going to change other brothers' lives. You know what I mean? And in that, you're building a nation. All right? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I forgot.
Yabaraka Yahweh.
Yabaraka Yahweh.
Wayashamarka.
Wayashamarka.
Ya'al Yahweh.
Ya'al Yahweh.
Panyawa.
Panyawa.
All Yakan.
Al-Yakan.
Wayakanka.
Wayakanka.
Yeshua Yahweh.
Yeshua Yahweh.
Panyawa.
Panyawa.
All Yakan.
Al-Yakan.
Wayashimlaka.
Wayashimlaka.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem.
Ba'ashem.
Yahweh Shai.
Yahweh Shai.
Barak.
Barak.
Rapah.
Rapah.
Magan.
Magan.
Hagan.
Hagan.
Nadawan.
Nadawan.
Nadawan. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai.
Bahashem Yahweh Shai.
The water of
The
man.
water of man.
Damn right. Congratulations, boy.
It's the water.